Son, are you coming today? Mom asked on the phone. You have received a letter. I didn't bother opening it. Maxim promised that he would call for a letter. At the same time, he would bring a present for Dasha, his 17-year-old daughter, who stayed with her grandparents when he finally completed his house and moved into it a year ago. Maxim had a new family, his wife Julia and their 6-year-old daughter Alice. And Dasha got along well with his wife, played with her sister, took care of her. But when the question arose about moving, Dasha decided to stay where she was born and raised. Dad, well, you'll still be close, 2 streets away. I can stay with you sometimes. But I want to live here. Maxim did not persuade his daughter. She is already an adult. They saw each other almost every day. Either Dasha will come to them, then he will visit his parents. They are already elderly, they need help with the housework. Maxim also knew that Dasha was talking to her mother. And between them established a fairly close relationship. There was even a moment when Dasha, after a stupid quarrel with her grandmother, gathered her things and announced that she was leaving for her mother. Has the right to. Max's parents then acted wisely. They did not dissuade and forbid. Silently they went into the garden and began to tinker there. Dasha, having cooled down, took apart her bag and went to apologize. Max found out about this a few days later, and then by accident his mother let it slip between times. Was alarmed. It became unpleasant that the daughter might even think of going to her mother, who lives in another city. And who, for all 17 years, saw her daughter for several months at most. But after all, he could not keep his daughter by force. And so he waved his hand, come what may. The past does not return. But traces of him from time to time emerge in his life. Maxim was 20 years old. He had just returned from the army and was in that state of euphoria that comes after returning home from demobilized conscripts. He did not miss a single party with friends and fell in love with every girl who came into his field of vision. True, he cooled very quickly, not him, no. Looking for the only one. He met Olga near his house. She looked around helplessly. How did such a beauty end up in our area? Oh, hello! The girl was delighted. I'm looking for the 5th house. I need to serve a summons. Here is the 1st, here is the 3rd, there is the 7th. And the 5th is nowhere to be found. Maxim laughed. Indeed, the 5th house on their street was located at the very end, as much as the 30th. Such is the nonsense. He volunteered to take the girl to the house she needed. On the way he found out that her name was Olga and she worked in the district court as a courier. Of course, Maxim could not miss the next candidate in his heart and threw out all the power of his masculine charm on the girl. Olga was not like the others. And therefore, Max not only did not cool off towards her, but on the contrary, he fell in love for real. She was feminine, airy, romantic and dreamy. She loved Dostoevsky's poems and novels, adored walks in beautiful places, and dreamed of climbing the highest mountain in the world, Everest. Next to Olga, he wanted to be good. Correct. And do things for her. Maxim got a job, broke away from his friends who continued to have fun and go for a walk, and began to read books. The parents couldn't be happier. A year later, they played a modest wedding. Olga did not like noisy feasts and vulgar competitions, so the few guests had a good time in the courtyard of their parents' house at a large table. And the young people also stayed in this house to live. There was enough space for everyone. Dasha was born a year and a half after the wedding. Maxim was in 7th heaven with happiness, and Olga seemed to have been replaced. Everything began to annoy her. She was weary with the chores that usually appear in a young mother. She yearned for the times when she could read and walk together, holding hands. And in general, she was annoyed that Maxim was parading with Dasha, demonstrating his love. And she, Olga, has nothing left. One day, the mother noticed that her daughter-in-law was openly yearning in maternity imprisonment and offered her help. "Come on, Olga, Dasha and I will be on maternity leave. And you go to work." And so they did. Olga went to work when her daughter was barely 6 months old. And so immersed in work that he returned home late. "I have a lot of addresses, I need to spread all the agendas," she justified herself. On the anniversary of their wedding, Maxim decided to meet his wife from work without warning. "I wanted to make a surprise." Did. His Olga fluttered out of the courthouse right into the arms of some skinny dude who was waiting for her with a box of chocolates. Maxim did not understand. He hit his wife on the neck with a prepared bouquet of chrysanthemums and finished off his opponent on the first number under Olga's cries and howls. When the anger let go a little, Max grabbed his wife by the scruff of the neck and dragged her home. Didn't understand. He simply said, "A child needs a mother. Otherwise, I would have kicked you out of here." But it turned out that Holguin's friend died from beatings. And Maxim lost his freedom for a long time. Only her mother came for rare dates. Once she took Dasha with her, who at that time was already 3 years old. Then he found out that Olga filed for a divorce and drove off over the horizon into a new bright love. The daughter left her grandparents. And when Maxim was released after 7 years, there was no more news from Olga. Only in Dasha's metrics was she indicated by her mother. Parents invested a lot of warmth in his daughter, and Dasha grew up as a very good and kind girl. At first, she was slightly wary of her father, but then she got used to it, melted from his love. The betrayal of his wife and the subsequent criminal punishment led to the fact that Maxim began to shun women and did not want any love. "Son, well, it's not a century for you to walk in bobs." "Well, there are also good women, not all the world has converged like a wedge on your Olga," the mother lamented. But he couldn't bring himself to look seriously at any woman. A light romance with no obligations, the most he was ready for. Until Julia showed up. Father got sick. He fell seriously ill, went to bed. I categorically did not want the hospital, only at home. Through acquaintances, they found a nurse who will come 3 times a day and do the necessary procedures, injections, droppers, massage. This nurse turned out to be Yulia, a red-haired merry girl with small curls on her head. A scattering of freckles on his face, and his eyes are green, like the surface of the sea. Yulia exuded confidence and calmness, and when she began to joke and laugh, life became brighter. The energy of this woman was so strong. Just a ray of life. After several days of communication with Yulia, my father cheered up. Began to smile and strive for recovery. "I'm with you, Yulenka, I'll dance again," he promised, groaning from the injection. "Dance, dance," the nurse laughed. "At my wedding." Dasha also became attached to Yulia. The absence of a mother in her life affected. Julia brought her gifts, either a hair clip, or a pretty little bracelet, or felt tip pens. "I don't have children, but I really want to," she admitted to Maxim's mother. "Only now you can't get married, work takes all the time." Maxim practically did not meet with the nurse. He either worked on a shift, then he left for another job. But their meetings still took place. Accurately for the new year. On that day, it swirled and froze unexpectedly. My father has almost recovered, there were 2 more procedures left. Julia then finished the massage and began to get ready. And Maxim just returned home after a 2-week absence. "Yulenka, don't leave," the mother asked. "Let's have dinner with us, I baked pies for tea." Maxim loves. "Will you stay?" Yulia looked embarrassed at the young man, who was silent, waiting with a grin for her answer. "Stay, Julia." Dasha squealed happily. "There is such a blizzard. You will get lost." Finally, Maxim said. Yes, stay, you need to try Mom's pies. You've never eaten these, I bet. And she stayed. The pies were delicious, and Maxim, the son of her patient, was quite sweet and sociable. And after a while, without much ceremony, they passed the stage of a romantic relationship and immediately began to live together. When Alice was born, the house became even brighter with happiness because everyone loved the baby, including Dasha. And then there was Olga. Hello, Dasha. How big you have become. Maxim's ex-wife said right from the doorstep. Olga was not embarrassed that she had not seen her daughter for almost 13 years. She was not stopped by the fact that a 2-year-old girl, similar to Maxim, was sitting in Dasha's arms. Mother groaned and covered her mouth with her hand. Father tensed. Trouble has come. What do you need in our house? Maxim asked menacingly, instinctively covering both daughters with himself. I came to my daughter. I have the right. My lawyer told me. Mother? Dasha got out from behind her father's back. Julia quickly intercepted Alice and stepped aside. Maxim looked at Olga with an angry look, but she was not impressed. Yes, baby, I'm your mom. Come to me. Dasha suddenly rushed out of the house and ran into the yard, hiding behind the bathhouse. Get away from Sin, Olga. I served mine. I don't want to trample the zone again because of you. Out. Olga defiantly smiled, saying, Come on, try. And then the mother stood between them and quickly spoke, Stop dogging. My daughter has grown up, now you will ask her if she needs a mother or not. But I won't let you fight. Olga, go away, I beg you. I swear, Dasha will come to you herself, just tell me how to find you. And you, son, chill. You have children. The wife is young. There is something to live for, do not ruin yourself. Yulia, with Alice in her arms, took Maxim, who had almost fallen into a stupor, away. And Olga, grinning, went out of the house, shouted to Dasha, but to no avail. Then she wrote something on a piece of paper, returned and gave it to her former mother-in-law. My phone number. I'm passing through here. Let Dasha call me if she wants to. And she left. Dasha called her mother a couple of months later. I told my grandmother about it. She didn't say a single bad word about Olga. And since then they began to communicate first by phone. Then Dasha began to visit. But she didn't stay there for long. During the time of separation, Olga managed to get married 3 more times, gave birth to 2 children. And in the rare visits of her eldest daughter, she was not up to her. It happened that Dasha asked her grandmother to help her mother. She always did not have enough money. And the grandmother, without saying anything to anyone, sent a decent amount to her former daughter-in-law. Maxim, seeing that their life had not changed much with the appearance of Olga in it, and Dasha was still with them, calmed down. And he completely devoted himself to the completion of the construction of a new house, where they now lived. Mom, is Dasha at home? Julia sent her some cosmetics. Dasha had been waiting for a long time. Maxim entered his parents' house and put a heavy bag of groceries on a chair. Where, Dad? Oh, great. Thank you. Dasha was the first to respond to his call, ran, took a multicolored glossy box and rushed off, singing merrily. There was an unopened envelope on the table. He remembered what his mother had said about the letter. He opened it and took out a piece of paper with small print. Decision of the bailiff on the initiation of enforcement proceedings. He, Maxim, is a debtor for alimony. Maxim did not understand what kind of alimony. He turned and walked out of his parents' house. Went to the address indicated in the resolution. Kappa Bailiff. I received a copy of the court decision. Olga collected alimony from him for the maintenance of Dasha. Here is the snake. He recalled how, immediately after his arrival a few years ago, his ex-wife received a court order to collect alimony, and he went to lawyers and cancelled this order. And he doesn't have to pay any child support. And here's to you. The court was in the city where Olga lives. He didn't receive any orders, but immediately became a debtor. He decided to talk to his mother. And then I found out that from time to time she throws money at Olga, in the hope that she will not lure Dasha to her. Mother! Was she blackmailing you? Why did you help her? You see, she also exacted from me. And now I will pay her until Dashkin comes of age. And what a debt! The mother began to cry. She wondered why her daughter-in-law, 6 months before Dasha turned 18, filed for alimony. Not a word to Dasha, Maxim ordered. But I won't leave it like this. Maxim turned to lawyers and achieved the annulment of the court decision in the court where it was issued. At his request, the case on a claim for the recovery of alimony was transferred to the jurisdiction at the place of residence of Maxim and Dasha. Olga did not appear at any court session, and the court dismissed her claim. It seemed that it was a victory. But Olga managed to turn Dasha against her father. At the same time, she did not allow her to come for permanent residence. She didn't want a daughter without alimony. But she managed to sow discord between her daughter and father. It took time for Dasha to realize the whole situation. And her stepmother Julia played a big role in this. She surrounded the girl with her love and affection, told her female secrets, listened to Dasha's secrets. And between times she carefully explained what had happened between her father and mother. But in such a way as not to set the girl against one or the other. Dasha thought out. The bell of her laughter rang again in Maxim's house. What are you like me? Maxim admired his wife. You are our ray of life. Julia smiled. She understood that it was impossible to break the soul of a child into two halves, one of which would be mother's, the other father's. And children don't choose mothers. Dasha has it like this. But she loves her, and that's it. And you just have to deal with it. That's the story, friends. Please write what you think about this story. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. All the best. Goodbye.